Yo, what up, friends?
Gotta say, baby, shout out. You know where I'm going with this. You know who I represent. Let me turn my hat around so the people know
I
who
should have
your
wore some
boy
green.
represents before I get my new hat. I'm still wearing the 2008, but I just want you to talk about my champion Boston Celtics for a second. Just give them their flowers, my friend.
That was the best team from the beginning of the season, man. They came out of the gates and put people on notice, man. They made two moves. I mean, because it looked like one of those situations. If it's not broke, then why fix it? So to move on from Marcus Smart, right? Everybody was like, "Man, he was such a leader and a great defender." You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? And you move on from that, and then not long after that, you get Drew Holiday, and it's like, they lost Marcus, but they replaced him with a better offensive player with probably better defense as well. And I'm like, wow, man, that is a amazing move by Brad Stevens, man. Like, for him to do that, and then they grab Porzingis, and I'm like, oh man, they got a unicorn. Who the only reason why he can't be a unicorn because he can't stay healthy, but now that he's a third, fourth option, third or fourth option, now that might help sustain him from injury through the season, get him less to worry about, less pressure. And I'm like, oh man, they might be cooking with grease, and then they come out on fire, and then at times they would get bored and drop a game that they shouldn't have dropped. And then ESPN would talk about them and be like, oh man, I'm afraid for Boston. I'm like, look, man, these dudes are bored. Like they're
That's
bored,
exactly
and they almost coasted the 60+ wins, right? Only team that had 60, I think. Almost coasted the 60+ wins,
definitely.
And everybody underappreciated them. Everybody underappreciated them. They did not put Jaylen Brown on an all NBA team. They didn't even have Jason Tatum in the conversation for MVP at all. And I'm like, man, how does the best team in the league led by Tatum and Brown also be underappreciated? Like, I was so confused, right? So I was like, man,
for the people in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when you have a team with multiple, when you have a all NBA team with multiple players from one team, it's usually supposed to be the team that's on the top of the seeding, right? If you have a team, all-star team with multiple players on it, it should be a top-seeded team, right? We should not have the Lakers barely squeaking into the playoffs and they getting AD and LeBron on the all-NBA team. But the number one team in the league is only getting one all-NBA selection. Right, the multiple selections for all NBA and all star should come from the top ranked teams, not the bottom. Right, so that was my thought on that. I'm glad they went in. They probably went in with a little chip on their shoulder. Yes, they had some help. Some people got injured. Jimmy Butler got injured. Halliburton got injured. But the series was already decided by the time he got injured. You know what I mean? So yeah, they had some help a little bit.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, they had some help a little bit, man, but I didn't think it was going to be one of those things where they got to the finals and got surprised by somebody out of the West. I knew Boston was the best team the whole time.
Got it. No, because that's where I was actually going to go with that. So everybody, the media, everybody was like, oh, well, they ain't played nobody. There were injuries, so they played lesser teams, even though, let's be fair, they were without Porzingis, their third best player for much of the postseason, but that we never complained. There was no complaints over here. But the talk was out there. So you have to ask, is that true? Was that a thing? So I have consistently said, you play who's in front of you. You play the teams that are in front of you. Every team deals with injuries. This late in the season, teams are tired. They're playing a lot of games. This is when injuries happen. So I want your professional opinion on this. Do you subscribe to the fact, and I know you just said you talked about it a little bit, but do you subscribe to the fact that this is a asterisk champion, as someone like Hot Take Jake would say it is, or is this legitimate and they actually deserve everything they won?
No, it's not an asterisk because you got two seasons. You got the regular season and the postseason, right? And we reward the teams that performed the best in the regular season with postseason seeding, right? Home court advantage, number 1 seed. You got to play the number 8 seed. So what you do in the regular season sets you up for success for the postseason. Now, if your team is constructed in a way to where you can get through a grueling 82 game season and get into the playoffs healthy, then that's kudos to you and your ball club and your front office. If your team is instructed in a way like Philly is, where you got to put all the load on Joel Embiid and he don't have no help and he don't hold up for the whole season, then that's on you. If I'm playing you in the postseason and my team is constructed in a way where I overexert your superstars because they're not used to playing defense at a high level like this, and I got them all over the place and they get hurt, that's on them. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of like when the Warriors play Harden and CP3 hamstring almost fell off the bone. That's because he was running, chasing Steph around all game, and he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready for that. So it's not my fault. What I'm providing on the court is causing you to get injured. You get what I'm saying? Now, if that was a situation like Giannis sliding his foot under Kyrie's foot and twisting his ankle real bad, and it was down 2-0 and they got blew out by 40 in both games, and then now that Kyrie's down, and then the next game Harden gets hurt, and now y'all go and beat Brooklyn in 7 games, right? If that happens, then I can understand you saying if it wasn't for those injuries, y'all wouldn't have made it because y'all was down 2-0 and y'all own teammates didn't believe y'all could win until everyone got hurt. So that's different. But what Boston did is outlast everybody during the season, get the best record, get home court advantage throughout the playoffs, keep all their guys healthy, and go into the playoffs with the number 1 seed. And they got through it, other than Porzingis getting hurt, but other than that, they got through it. They was built right. They was built of the right stuff, and the other teams weren't. So,
and that's exactly where they were constructed the right way. As you mentioned earlier, Brad Stevens did an amazing job piecing this team together after losing Marcus Smart, which you mentioned earlier, which was my heart. I was so sad the day we traded him. And then we got Giroux, and I'm a UCLA fan, so I was like, okay, all day. We got my Bruin in here. Let's do this. And you got Porzingis, who, by the way, let's not front, he would still be a number 2 on any other team in the league right now if he wasn't on Boston. So my thing is, even if those people were healthy, like, Halliburton missed a couple games, you didn't have Donovan Mitchell, you didn't have Jimmy Butler, so on and so forth, I don't believe that stops the Celtics. The Celtics were ranked in the top 3 in offensive and defensive efficiency, which, if most people know, you need to rank at least in the top 10 in both of those to pretty much be a champion most years. There are some outliers. They also had 122.2 points per 100 possessions, which is the best in NBA history. So these things we have to look at. You have a 64-18 record. You're dominating the competition. We have to look at how far this team was that was more dominant than the other teams, and not just, okay, they played some either, inferior competition in terms of the people saying, oh, well, they lucked out because the Nuggets had to play the Timberwolves, and then the Timberwolves had to play the Mavericks, and those were all bad matchups, which I agree. I totally agree with that. That's right. But why is that our fault we didn't play the Nuggets? I would have liked to play the Nuggets too. I wanted a better series.
Yeah. Nuggets would have got clapped in that series too. Nuggets ain't had no. It was Boston's year this year, man. They proved that throughout from the tip off of the first game of the season. They proved that. They was the best all year round. They had a mission in mind. There was focus, all of that good stuff, man. And they did what they were supposed to do, man. Kudos to them. And the front office for sure, man, for bringing in Holiday and Porzingis, man. That was huge.
And so, what are your thoughts? Is repeat possible? Dynasty possible? What are we looking at here?
I mean, if you're going into, not knowing what the offseason thing, what these teams are going to do, because I hear Paul George might be signing with some team out east, so he ended up in Philly. Philly was already a problem with just Embiid and Maxey. So if they add Paul George, that'll make them that much better. I don't know what New York's going to do. Maybe Paul George ends up in New York, or they make a play that would get Mikal Bridges. Who knows? So we got to see what the other teams are doing, but definitely Boston will be able to bring back their same squad from this year, next year, as far as top 8 players, depending on if Al Horford wants to retire or not, because he's got 1 year left on his contract. So, yeah, they're gonna be in the running for sure. They'll be in the running for sure. Maybe even the favorites. You know, so and who knows, they might add somebody.
Let's go. Let's go. And you know what? I can already update everybody just to let y'all know. Since obviously I have my sources with the Celtics, Al Horford staying. He already says he's coming back to play next year.
Okay, good.
Derek White and Jason Tatum's extensions are both going to get done. They said they're definitely signing Derek White. So all of these things are already.
Y'all gonna be paying some luxury tax, boy.
Yes, sir. I was just about to say that. So you know we talked about. Well, you saw my comment last night. The second April, right? So talk more about that. You were talking about that last night.
I can't speak too intelligent on that because I haven't read that whole CBI. All I've heard was people on ESPN talk about how it's structured and how that second apron comes into play. But I can't speak intelligently to it. I had to do some more research on that. But but the gist of it is, teams is going to be heavily taxed in some type of way, and it's just not financial tax. It is also compensation and draft picks, depending on how far past the cap you are. So keeping multiple max players, trying to get anything close to a super team with 3 super stars is going to be very hard on a team, penalty wise. So what what Derek White is probably going to be asking for, sheesh. I mean, I would do it to see if we can repeat, but at some point, if they don't repeat, they're gonna have to look to cut some people, but trade some people like Derek White, and possibly Porzingis too.
Yeah, so I mean, like you mentioned, those second apron, third apron, the higher you get, not only, like you said, financially you get penalized, but in draft position. So again, I'm with you. I don't know the exact specifics, but I know it's like if you're in the second apron, you can lose 10 draft positions, which means you can easily move from the 20s to the 30s or the 10s to the 20s, which in the NBA, we know, especially in the first round, it could be a whole damn superstar. You know what I mean? So depending where you're sitting at. So definitely they got to watch out for that. But like you said, they're going to run it back this year. Whatever happens, hopefully they win it. But if they don't, as you mentioned, I would trade Porzingis and even possibly Derek White at that time. I think you got to keep the core of Tatum and Brown together with how young they are at this point.
Yeah, they the Jordan Pippen of I mean, they're not as good. They Jordan Pippen light, but shooting guard, small forward tandem, like they are what we wanted Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to be, so they actually doing it. Remember when they first brought Kawhi and Paul together, we was like, man, 2 great defenders, 2 great scorers, both on the wing. Like, we haven't seen nothing like this since Jordan and Pippen, and we wanted that for them, but their injuries, piled up on them more than someone like Boston and with Tatum and Brown. So they're able to live out what we wanted to see in LA with Kawhi, PG-13. I think that's interesting.